October 7th, 2019. Joe here at Simple Life Show. SimpleLifeRemedy.org is the website. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all that good social media stuff because that does help us out since we are a 401c charity. So I don't really do a lot of movie reviews. I do watch a lot of movies. I love movies, in fact. I also love DC. I love Marvel, too. But I am more of a DC person. I know that I'm probably in the minority. I think that we are just like the deplorables. We are an untapped resource that don't commonly raise our voices too much. But the DC crowd is out there. Now, I did watch Joker. In fact, I watched it twice. It was so good that I had to watch this film 2 times. That has happened almost no times in my life. And I'll tell you why. I really just wanted to I want to start doing this. If I watch a movie, a film, I really want to call it films rather than movies. If I watch a film that really just kind of gets to me and I feel like it really needs to be expressed more, I feel like that I need to talk about it, I'm going to do a movie review. I have watched a lot of those movies, but there's been very few times I've watched something that has made me want to actually just run out and not only watch it again, but also make a video about it as well. So Joker, if you go to the Wikipedia page, this movie, let me see. I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes was on this. I really don't even care. I think it was around 77%, something like that. It's almost impossible to get a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes. I've seen some of the perfect scores on Rotten Tomatoes, and I have no idea why some of those movies are so highly rated. But this is a controversial film, and that's why it didn't get a perfect score. I believe that if you took a lot of the controversial stuff out of there, it was a little bit more happy or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it would have got 100. I don't know. Phoenix is like one of the best actors alive, bar none. And I don't want to sell Heath Ledger short. Obviously, he's no longer with us. We can't now. If he was able to do more Joker films, I'm sure that he would have probably even upped his own self and what he did in The Dark Knight. But however, with this film, there was a lot of psychological, a lot of stuff going on in the movie, which made it a little bit more controversial. Also, of course, it was the anniversary of the Aurora, Colorado shooting as well. I was in Aurora at the time. So this was something I really want to look into. I did not watch it in the theater the first night because, yes, I was a little bit paranoid. I live in a metropolitan area. I did succumb to the peer pressure and not go see it the first night, even though I really, really wanted to. But this is something that they had to say here.
While the dark take on the Clown Prince of Crime seems primed to set the box office on fire, Joker has also found itself wrapped up in some surprising controversy. The contention surrounds the rampant gun violence that plays a part in Joker's story, with violence and firearms tending to accompany the Joker character in whatever form he takes. The perceived content of the movie has inspired some family members of the victims of the 2012 mass shooting in Aurora, Colorado, which tragically unfolded during a screening of Warner Brothers' The Dark Knight Rises, to pen a heartfelt letter to the studio prior to Joker's release. They say they're concerned that Joker may inadvertently inspire copycat acts of violence.
This movie is really fueling the fire for anyone who might even be thinking about, being a copycat for a mass shooter.
The group further urged the studio to lobby for gun reform, cease their support of public figures who advocate for gun rights, and to consider throwing more support behind groups who help the victims of gun violence.
We wanted them to have civic responsibility, corporate responsibility, and to do the right thing by survivors.
So, yeah, that was, I can kind of understand their point when it comes to this. I really can. It's not like that I'm a completely heartless person. I've been literally down the street several times in my life from mass shootings when they have occurred. Not in real time, but, close enough to hear the gunshots. So the issue that I have with this is not so much that I don't feel that people shouldn't be speaking up about it. I think everyone has a right to say whatever they want. However, This is just a movie, okay? Here we're blaming the movies and the movie makers, and we're trying to hold them responsible for something they had nothing to do with. The person responsible for the shooting in Aurora was the person that actually pulled the trigger in the Aurora movie theater, and he alone is the person that should be responsible for all that, just like it is with any other shooter. You know, if I was to pick up a hammer and start going on a hammering spree, you know, then I wouldn't expect people to start talking about how bad hammers are. You know, this isn't going to be a discussion about guns and stuff like that. But before I actually saw this film, I had it in my mind already that this was going to be a different film. Already, I knew it was going to be anything like The Dark Knight or anything like that. I knew it was a DC film, but I also knew that it was going to be orders of magnitude of difference between the two. So, you know, with that said, I also thought that there's no way that Phoenix could outperform Ledger. And it's not that I don't believe that, because I believe that Phoenix in a lot of ways did, but he did it in a way that was a little bit different because it was a different film. So you can't really compare the two. Ledger was an amazing actor. It's so sad that we lost him because he was the quintessential perfect Joker, but Phoenix really captivated the Joker in a way that I didn't even think was what was possible. But let's take a look back at Ledger one more time.
Let's wind the clocks back a year. These cops and lawyers wouldn't dare cross any of you. I mean, what happened? Your balls drop off? You see, a guy like me...
Freak.
A guy like me. Look, listen. I know why you choose to have your little group therapy sessions in broad daylight. I know why you're afraid to go out at night. The Batman. See, Batman has shown Gotham your true colors, unfortunately. Dent, he's just the beginning. And as for the television's so-called plan, Batman has no jurisdiction. He'll find him and make him squeal. I know the squealers when I see them. And
What do you propose?
it's simple. We kill the Batman.
So yeah, that was every time I watch that movie, I mean, I'm just so entranced by Ledger's character. I'm entranced by, you know, every single character in that movie, and I think that in the last the clip that we saw before, where you know the people were talking about the Aurora shooting, I believe that was during The Dark Knight and not The Dark Knight Rises. I'm pretty sure about that. I'd have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure it was The Dark Knight. So, I mean, well, it does make a lot of sense because The Dark Knight had the Joker in it, and The Dark Knight Rises had Bane. So that's kind of where. Okay, so if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't seen this yet, I will go ahead and just, you know what, I'm not really going to spoil too much because it's not one of those films that really has a lot of tricky endings or anything like that. So if you don't want to watch the rest of this, I totally get it. I understand. I'm just going to tell you what I thought about the film. All right. So when the film starts off with Phoenix character as Arthur Fleck, which was kind of weird because if you take his first initial A and then Fleck, it's Affleck, which is Ben Affleck and Batman. But anyway, I don't know if that's just a coincidence or they just threw that in there just as a gag. But I like the name Arthur Fleck. I totally dug it. But yeah, he works as a clown, doing side gigs. Of course, in the opening scene, he's beat up by a group of New York thugs, and they steal his sign, and he goes through a series of financial woes where he's blamed for certain things, and he's constantly being harassed and beat up. And we see that we see him where he meets with his counselor, and he's on a host of all kinds of different medications. He's obviously messed up. He's only, he has a kind of a weird relationship with his mother, where his mother has, and they did. It's just really, it's kind of Hitchcockian kind of relationship that he has with his mother, and that's not something that I was surprised about, because if you look back into a lot of the different Jokers throughout time, the Joker has always had psychological issues. He's always come from a very dark past, and he's a very sick individual. But I thought there was, on its head, this film is about so many things, or so many layers. It's about the rich versus the poor. I thought it was a good commentary about the state of our how we treat the mentally disturbed in our society, and how the government money is not going towards the things that it really needs to go towards. And this could also be a commentary too. And I thought it was actually a really good thing, because people wanted to actually throw this film under the bus before they watched it, because if they would have watched this film, they would have got a lot of what I saw, at least, was a person that wanted to get help, and the system actually threw him under the bus. But it actually brought forward a lot of the issues that we need to work on in society, especially with people that have mental issues, that could take a gun into a movie theater and shoot people. Okay. And this is something that I immediately saw, and I'm like, oh, well, this is really good. I like where they're going with this. I don't know why there was so much controversy. So we have Arthur Fleck, who is living a very miserable experience in his life. He has very few friends outside of his own work. He has one friend who is called, they're I guess midgets, whatever. Small people, however you want to call them, whatever is a politically correct term, whatever. They use the term miniatures and midgets and stuff like that in the film, so whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get away from the main point here, is that he has very few friends, and that's one of actually his good friends, and he's one of the people he does not mess with. He does not kill in this film, which I thought was that was kind of interesting. So a larger man that actually works with him, I can't remember what his name is, but he finds out what's happening to him. He's getting harassed, and he gives him a gun, and for protection. And of course, this is something that he even tells him that he's on medication. He shouldn't have a gun, but he pretty much forces the gun on him and says, "It's okay. You can get me back later." And of course, I'm not gonna talk about every single scene, but he does use this gun in a lot of violent ways. He does kill numerous people in this film. It's not a lot, okay. He does have an interaction with some, I would call them trust fund babies, or people that work actually with Thomas Wayne in investments. And they start harassing him, and they start beating him up, and he ends up killing all three of them inside the subway. And of course, the cops are after him, and they're trying to question him. They're trying to question people he works with throughout the film. But that's just the whole plot points and stuff like that. That's not really what kind of engrossed me in the film. What really engrossed me in this film is how many layers and how many metaphors was put into this movie, and how many layers you could so many ways you can interpret this film. It's like the whole movie was from a forced perspective of the Joker itself. So you're inside of his head whether you like it or not, and you're not really sure whether the whole thing's real, and you're not really sure he's making stuff up, because there's plenty of times in the film, one notably, where he supposedly has a girlfriend. Well, we find out later that she didn't want anything to do with him. He was imagining the whole thing, and he lives in his head a lot. Of course, he's been inside the mental institution. Now, whether he's been in the mental institution the whole time, that's really that kind of leaves the question at the end. From just a pure comic standpoint of view, I believe this wasn't so much a departure from DC as it was. It lifted the whole enterprise up. It lifted the whole franchise up because the way that Phoenix plays the Joker and the way that he explores his pain, especially with being abandoned as a child and being abused as a child and given up as his mentally deranged mother, who was supposedly involved in an affair with Thomas Wayne. So there we go into the whole thing of where whether or not whether he and future Batman or Bruce Wayne are actually brothers. I thought that was amazing. I thought it was like, wow, I need to go watch The Dark Knight again. This is just amazing. The way they kind of intertwined, and of course they just stuck with the whole theme of the origin of the Joker and really all the way up to the origin of Batman as well. And of course I know the timelines really don't match up. Phoenix in the movie, he's probably in his mid-30s, something like that, possibly mid to late 30s, and of course Bruce Wayne is still a little kid. But there's a lot of the stuff that harkens back to old Batman films, old Batman and Joker comics and stuff like that. I mean, it kind of picked from a lot of different stuff. It was really peppered in there really wonderfully. But what I really enjoyed about this film and why I wanted to watch it a second time was just the amount of imagery, of metaphor, and the amount of layers that you can pick out of this movie. I mean, it was a commentary on life itself, that life is just kind of like a joke. I think it's a commentary on society itself and how we treat the underprivileged and how we treat those who are or they have mental problems, and that's what causes a lot of the problems in our society as well, especially when it comes to mass shootings and people just flipping out and losing it. I thought it was really wonderful how the stairs always came into view, and they always played a role in this film. He was either going upstairs or downstairs, like all the time. And every time he was going up the stairs, he was downtrodden. He was beaten. He was trying to climb that corporate ladder. He was trying to climb any kind of ladder he could. And I thought that was so amazing. I almost just started crying when I really started to get it, that this film wasn't really about Joker. It was about society itself. And the even The Dark Knight, if you listen to what Heath is talking about, or the Joker's talking about in the dialogue that's created for him, what he's talking about through the entire film, he's talking about the same things. And Phoenix and Ledger, even though they're completely two separate films in two different time periods, they are speaking about the exact same things. And I will say this at once. I will say this while I have it on my mind. I believe that Phoenix, his laugh is better than better than Heath's. I will have to say that because it was just so uncomfortable. That's another thing. This film is so uncomfortable. It is just so you don't want to look away, but you kind of do. You kind of do want to look away at the same time. We see him here on the bus where he's going back and forth and he has this laughing condition. He can't control it, and he's always trying to control it. He's always trying to control who he is. That's why he's always trying to go up the stairs. He's trying to fit in with society. And I believe that makes a really good commentary on people in general. But halfway through the film, we see that the character of the Joker and Phoenix and the way that he encapsulates the Joker starts going through a very distinct metamorphosis between trying to fit into society and trying to stamp down who he is on the inside, and just simply release himself into who he was meant to be. And of course, that is the Joker itself. As we see, in the trailers, the Joker in full gear, green hair and everything, is dancing down the stairs, and that is why they have chosen for that scene, or that particular scene, to be because it says a lot. It really does, because the Joker is, when the Joker finally finally makes that complete metamorphosis, he goes down the red carpet stairs, as it were. He becomes who he is meant to be. Even though he is a villain, we still feel bad for him, because the Joker represents all of the downtrodden in our society. He represents the clowns that are made fun of, that people make fun of each and every day, that whenever he is talking to Robert De Niro in one of the final scenes, he's saying that, why do you feel so bad for these people I killed when I could die and no one would care? He makes a lot of these statements throughout the entire film. One of the first statements he makes is, I believe it's, I hope my death makes more sense than my life. The only thing that he's really trying to accomplish is the only thing that everyone's trying to accomplish. They're trying to make sense out of this entire existence, and the people that we're having to climb this ladder our entire lives and try to be things that we're not. And we are so afraid of getting rid of flushing the pills that the society keeps giving to us to keep us, quote unquote, normal or sane. And I think that a lot of people that watch this movie, if you're listening to what I'm saying, I'm not spoiling anything for you, because this film stands on itself as a statement that we can't always put our happy face on. We can't always do all the things that society wants us to do. We have to be who we want to be. We have to be who we are meant to be. And the more that we try to stamp that down, the more it fights back. And of course, Arthur Fleck here just kind of gives into it. Finally, he gives into who he is. And it's not so much that he's a murderer or anything like that. I think he is, at a certain point, he is a product of his society. He just wants his father, He hates his mother for lying to him his entire life. He just wants some sort of. He always at the heart of everything. All he wanted was a sense of normalcy. He just wanted someone to be nice to him, to be decent to him. And I think this is a really good commentary on society today, where we have just kind of looked past each other. We have looked past those who we feel are beneath us. And this is one of the biggest commentaries so far in 2019 that I can think of, is this movie. So if you have a chance to watch this, please do. Please watch this. Watch it multiple times. This movie is going to be awarded so many awards. I think at this point, even in 2019, we're towards the end of 2019, it should be on the short list of Best Picture. So until next time, this is Joe with Simple Life. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next next video. Bye.